In the rolling farmlands of South Bend, Indiana, stood one of America's most beloved automotive dreams turned nightmare. The Studebaker Corporation wasn't just another car company. It was the oldest vehicle manufacturer in the United States, a company that had been building transportation for over a century before it tragically collapsed under the weight of Detroit's industrial might. Founded in 1852 by five German immigrant brothers, Studebaker began as a humble blacksmith and wagon-making operation that would eventually build carriages for Abraham Lincoln and cars for Hollywood royalty. But by December 20, 1963, after 114 years in business, this pioneering company announced it was ceasing all automotive production in the United States, marking the end of an era and the beginning of a cautionary tale about what happens when heritage meets corporate warfare. The Studebaker story is one of innovation crushed by economics, of independent spirit steamrolled by mass production, and of how even the most storied American company could be reduced to a footnote when the big three automakers decided to flex their industrial muscles. The Studebaker brothers, Henry, Clement, John, Peter, and Jacob, arrived in South Bend with nothing but old-world craftsmanship and new-world ambition. Their first major breakthrough came during the Civil War, when they secured massive government contracts to build military wagons, establishing themselves as the go-to manufacturer for quality transportation. By 1875, Studebaker had become the world's largest wagon and carriage manufacturer, producing over 75,000 vehicles annually and employing more than 6,000 workers. Their craftsmanship was legendary. Studebaker carriages were so well built that they became the preferred choice for U.S. presidents, with everyone from Ulysses S. Grant to William McKinley riding in Studebaker-built vehicles. The company's reputation for quality extended far beyond American borders, with Studebaker wagons helping settlers traverse the Oregon Trail and carriages serving European royalty. When the automotive age dawned in the early 1900s, Studebaker was uniquely positioned to make the transition from horse-drawn vehicles to motorized transportation, having already mastered the art of building reliable, durable conveyances. Their first gasoline-powered automobile rolled off the line in 1904, marking the beginning of what should have been a natural evolution for America's premier transportation company. The early decades of Studebaker's automotive division showcased the same commitment to quality and innovation that had made their carriages famous. In 1911, Studebaker introduced the Flanders 20, one of the first mass-produced cars to feature electric lighting as standard equipment. The company pioneered numerous automotive innovations, including the first production car with a fully enclosed body in 1913 and one of the first vehicles with four-wheel hydraulic brakes in 1923. During World War I, Studebaker proved their manufacturing prowess once again, producing military trucks, ambulances, and aircraft engines for the Allied forces. The 1920s marked Studebaker's golden age of design and engineering, with models like the elegant President and the sporty Commander capturing the imagination of American car buyers. The company's South Bend facility became a showcase of advanced manufacturing techniques, featuring one of the most modern automotive assembly lines in the country. By 1928, Studebaker had climbed to sixth place among American automakers, producing over 180,000 vehicles annually, and generating revenues of more than $100 million. The company's success wasn't just in sales figures. Studebaker cars were winning races, setting speed records, and earning recognition for their superior build quality and innovative engineering solutions. However, the Great Depression exposed the first cracks in Studebaker's foundation, revealing vulnerabilities that would eventually prove fatal. Unlike Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler, which had diversified their operations and built massive economies of scale, Studebaker remained primarily focused on quality over quantity. When the economic collapse of 1929 hit, car sales plummeted by over 75% industry-wide, but smaller manufacturers like Studebaker were hit disproportionately hard. The company entered receivership in March 1933, barely avoiding complete bankruptcy through a complex restructuring deal that left it financially weakened and operationally constrained. While competitors were consolidating their positions and investing in new technologies, Studebaker spent the 1930s struggling to pay off creditors and rebuild their damaged reputation. The company's management made a critical error during this period by trying to compete directly with the Big Three on price rather than emphasizing their traditional strengths of quality and innovation. Production numbers that had once reached nearly 200,000 vehicles annually dwindled to fewer than 50,000 cars per year throughout much of the Depression era. The financial constraints forced Studebaker to delay crucial investments in new tooling, modern manufacturing equipment, and advanced engineering programs that were becoming standard practice among their larger competitors. World War II provided a temporary lifeline for Studebaker, as the company once again demonstrated their manufacturing excellence by producing military vehicles for the Allied war effort. Studebaker's South Bend plant manufactured over 200,000 military trucks during the war, including the famous US-6 truck that became known as the backbone of the Soviet Union's transportation network under the Lend-Lease program. The company also produced aircraft engines, including components for the Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress and other critical military aircraft. These wartime contracts generated substantial revenue and allowed Studebaker to modernize their facilities and retool for post-war automotive production. When civilian car production resumed in 1946, Studebaker surprised the industry with one of the most revolutionary designs of the era, the 1947 Studebaker Champion and Commander models, styled by the renowned Raymond Loewy. These cars featured groundbreaking aerodynamic styling that was so futuristic many observers couldn't tell if they were coming or going, earning them the nickname "Which Way Studebakers." The distinctive design helped Studebaker achieve record sales of over 268,000 vehicles in 1950, their highest production year since the 1920s. For a brief moment, it appeared that the independent automaker had successfully reinvented itself and secured a place in America's automotive future. The 1950s, however, brought new challenges that would ultimately prove insurmountable for the South Bend automaker. The Big Three, Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler, had emerged from World War II with massive production capabilities, enormous financial resources, and the ability to achieve economies of scale that smaller manufacturers simply couldn't match. General Motors alone was producing over 3 million vehicles annually by 1955, while Studebaker's best year barely reached 270,000 units. This volume disparity meant that GM could spread their fixed costs across 10 times as many vehicles, allowing them to offer similar cars at lower prices while maintaining healthy profit margins. Studebaker found themselves caught in a devastating price war where they couldn't compete on cost without sacrificing the quality that had always been their hallmark. The company's labor costs were also higher than the industry average, partly due to generous union contracts negotiated during the profitable war years, but also because their smaller scale meant they couldn't automate their production lines as efficiently as their larger competitors. A critical turning point came in 1953 when Studebaker's president, Harold Vance, admitted that the company was losing money on every car they built, but hoped to make it up through volume, a strategy that proved to be economic suicide. The situation was further complicated by Studebaker's dealer network, which was smaller and less profitable than those of the Big Three, making it increasingly difficult to reach potential customers or provide adequate service support. Desperate to survive, Studebaker made a series of strategic moves in the mid-1950s that initially seemed promising but ultimately hastened their demise. In 1954, the company merged with luxury automaker Packard Motor Company, creating the Studebaker-Packard Corporation, in hopes that combining two struggling independents would create a viable competitor to Detroit's giants. The merger was orchestrated by James Nance, Packard's ambitious president, who believed that shared resources and complementary product lines could revitalize both brands. However, the merger proved to be a case of two drowning companies trying to save each other, as Packard brought its own serious financial problems to the partnership. The combined company introduced several innovative models, including the stunning 1953 Studebaker Starliner Coupe and the forward-thinking 1959 Studebaker Lark compact car. The Lark, in particular, showed flashes of the company's old genius. It was introduced 2 years before the Big Three launched their own compact cars and initially achieved strong sales by offering European-style efficiency in an American package. In 1959, Studebaker sold over 153,000 vehicles, their best year since 1951, and company executives began to believe they had found a sustainable niche in the growing compact car market. The Lark's success was so significant that it briefly returned Studebaker to profitability and generated enough cash flow to fund development of new models and manufacturing improvements. Unfortunately, Studebaker's compact car advantage evaporated almost as quickly as it had appeared. demonstrating once again how the Big Three's resources could overwhelm any independent manufacturer's innovations. In 1960, Ford launched the Falcon, Chevrolet introduced the Corvair, and Plymouth debuted the Valiant, instantly transforming the compact car segment from Studebaker's private domain into another battlefield where the South Bend company was hopelessly outgunned. These new Big Three compacts were backed by massive advertising budgets, extensive dealer networks, and competitive pricing that Studebaker simply couldn't match. The company's sales plummeted from 153,000 vehicles in 1959 to just 84,000 in 1961, a devastating decline that wiped out their brief return to profitability. Studebaker's board of directors, led by Chairman Sherwood Egbert, made increasingly desperate attempts to find a sustainable path forward, including launching the exotic Studebaker Avanti sports car in 1962. The Avanti, designed by Raymond Loewy's team, was a genuine masterpiece of automotive design and engineering that set multiple land speed records and earned critical acclaim for its innovative fiberglass construction and advanced safety features. However, production problems delayed the Avanti's launch, and when it finally reached dealers, it sold fewer than 4,000 units, not nearly enough to offset losses from the company's declining mainstream models. By 1963, Studebaker was burning through cash at an alarming rate, with monthly losses exceeding $1 million and no realistic prospect of returning to sustainable profitability in the increasingly competitive American automotive market. The final chapter of Studebaker's American automotive story unfolded with tragic inevitability as the company's board faced the harsh mathematics of industrial survival. On December 9, 1963, the board of directors voted to cease automotive production in South Bend, effective immediately, shocking the 6,000 workers who showed up for their shifts only to find the plant gates locked. The sudden shutdown was particularly cruel because management had given no advance warning to employees, many of whom had worked for the company for decades and had no reason to suspect the end was so near. The decision to close the South Bend operation was driven by cold financial reality. The company was losing approximately $400 on every car produced, and their cash reserves were nearly exhausted. Studebaker's Canadian operations in Hamilton, Ontario, continued producing cars for another 3 years, but these were essentially badge-engineered vehicles using increasingly outdated designs and minimal investment in new development. The last Studebaker automobile rolled off the Hamilton assembly line on March 17, 1966, marking the end of 114 years of continuous vehicle production by America's oldest transportation manufacturer. The company itself survived as a diversified corporation focusing on other businesses it had acquired over the years, including STP oil additives and various manufacturing operations, but the Studebaker name disappeared from American roadways forever. The South Bend plant, once a symbol of American industrial innovation and craftsmanship, was eventually demolished, leaving only empty lots where thousands of workers had once built some of the most distinctive and well-engineered automobiles in American history. The collapse of Studebaker represents more than just another corporate failure. It marked the end of an era when independent automakers could compete through innovation, quality, and distinctive design rather than pure economies of scale. Studebaker's demise proved that in the modern automotive industry, even superior engineering, innovative design, and a century of manufacturing experience couldn't overcome the fundamental advantages of size, scale, and financial resources. The company's fate was sealed not by poor products or incompetent management, but by the simple economic reality that the Big Three could build similar cars more cheaply and sell them more effectively through superior distribution networks. Studebaker's story serves as a cautionary tale about market concentration and the challenges facing any company trying to compete against established giants with overwhelming resource advantages. The irony is that many of Studebaker's innovations, compact cars, advanced safety features, aerodynamic styling, and efficient manufacturing techniques, eventually became industry standards, but the company received little credit or profit from pioneering these developments. Today, Studebaker automobiles are prized by collectors for their distinctive styling, superior build quality, and historical significance, commanding premium prices that the company never achieved when it desperately needed revenue to survive. The Studebaker legacy reminds us that in business, being right isn't always enough. Timing, resources, and market positioning often matter more than superior products or innovative thinking. America's oldest automaker built carriages that carried presidents and cars that captured hearts. But when the Titans of Detroit decided to crush the independents, even 114 years of heritage and innovation couldn't prevent Studebaker from becoming another casualty in the ruthless mathematics of modern industrial competition.